Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk Change. My name is Debbie, and I am here answering your questions around organizational change management. Now, today's question is a good one. It's usually one that generates a lot of conversation when I work with customers. So I'm really interested to share my thoughts with you as well as get your thoughts at the end. So make sure, as always, add your comments below or send me an email and let me know what you think. So let's take a look. Okay, this topic is about that group of people in your organization that you describe as being difficult when it comes to change. The laggards, the slow adopters, the people that complain and push back. And some organizations that I work with will say, look, I get it. We know that focusing on people change is important, but no matter what we do, we simply have these users that push back and complain. So what can we do? Well, let's take a look. I'll share of my thoughts with you and then eager to get your thoughts back in the comments below. So the first point I want to make here is that I believe change is personal. It is a choice that each and every one of us makes, and there are always options on the table. I work with companies who say, look, we're ripping out one technology, replacing it with another, so not changing is not an option. And I'm like, there's always other options, right? They can choose their own technology. They can choose to quit their job. They can choose to push back and complain, right? They don't always just have to go with the flow. So there are always options on the table. You may be taking away something that they're familiar with, but it doesn't mean that they're automatically just going to follow the one choice that you give them to make. So I want to take you through a personal example, right? So let's think about a personal decision that you've made in your life. It could be you made a brand new car purchase, or you purchased a new home, you transferred to a new city. Maybe you made some New Year's resolutions, right? Let's follow that example through. So why did you decide to make that change, right? You decided to set some New Year's resolutions. Maybe you were going to lose weight and get in shape, right? That's a common one. So think about why you decided to make that change, right? Usually it's because you were in a situation where you said, look, I don't like where I am right now, and I want something better. I want something bigger and better and different for myself. And you know that you're going to feel better after you make the change, right? I think change is really an emotional decision, and it's usually based on a feeling, right? You love a new car, right? It makes you feel great to be sitting in that car, right? Or the house and the neighborhood just gives you that warm and fuzzy, homey feeling, right? So you buy a new house. So usually decisions that we make are because we know either that a situation is so terrible that it can only get better, or that we want to improve a situation from where we are currently. So decisions are usually made because it's an emotional reaction to a situation that we're in. When do you take action? So going back to the New Year's resolution example, right? So you set some goals because you know you're going to feel better if you lose weight and get in shape. But when do you decide to take action? Usually it's when you're well informed, right? So you set a time frame, right? So you said, great, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to get ready, and January 1st is when I'm going to kick it into gear. You do your due diligence of what type of workout plan and exercise regimen do you want to do? Do you want to hire a trainer? Are you going to join a gym? What about your nutrition plan? Right? You do all of this research so that you can make a valiant effort to take action. So usually you take action once you have all of the information you need to make that decision. Again, same is true. You're buying a new car, a new house, right? You look at the neighborhood, you look at the price points, you go and get pre-qualified for a mortgage, right? You do all of that due diligence and then you take action once you feel as if you're ready to make that next step. And then really important, why do you stick with that change, right? New Year's resolutions really tend to fall off by what, February, March maybe? You go back to your old habits because old habits are really hard to break. So when you make a change, why do you usually find that you stick with that change? Typically, it's because you're seeing results, you're feeling better. Again, it all comes back to feeling and emotions and what we're going through. But it's really that personal oomph, if you will, of yes, I can do this. I feel supported. I have, a community around me. That's why there are so many of those online programs that form communities, because it gives you that accountability and it makes you feel supported as you keep navigating through that change. So that's why people stick to the change. So now I want to take those 3 questions and we're going to plant them into an organizational situation. So your organization is going through a change. And as you are communicating out to these people that are pushing back in your organization, are you really giving them enough information to make the decision to change? Right? Remember, it's an emotional decision. Are you really focusing on here's what's in it for you, everyone. Here's how you're going to benefit. Here's how you're going to feel better. Are you giving them enough information so that they can make that decision? Are you giving them ample time to do their research and get trained and figure it all out so that they can say, yes, I am ready to make this change? Are you supporting them after the change so that they stick with it, that they know they can get their questions answered? Do they feel that they have a community around them that's guiding them so that they have some accountability to see the change all the way through? So I want you to think about when you're going through these various exercises, think about what you do on a personal level, because it absolutely translates to what happens at an organizational level. So I think we're all familiar with that phrase, it's not you, it's me, right? So when you think about those difficult people in your organization, is it really them or is it you? Are there things that you can be doing to help drive that change and facilitate that change and accelerate results more so than you're doing today? Okay, so I wanted to share some points to consider as you move forward planning for organizational changes within your own organization. The first point is that there are many different perspectives when it comes to change. How people receive information, how they react to information is all based on several variables, right? People are not one size fits all, and your perspective may not be that of the people you're trying to reach. So whether it's different genders, cultural differences, generational perspectives, role-based differences in your organization, all of these play a role in how you should be communicating, how people receive that information. So it's really important to understand your organizational culture as it comes to change, because how you phrase things, the timing, the type of communication and training and support that you give all of these resources will vary. And, that's why when I hear organizations say, well, we just sent an email with a link to training, and I'm like, well, is that really resonating with this particular group of users within your organization? So consider that. You have to be thinking about, male versus female, regions around the world, different generations, right? Millennials brought up on technology, baby boomers, not so much. And it's not to say that baby boomers are not really tech savvy and that there are some millennials who don't know the first thing about turning a computer on, but it's just about considering all of these different perspectives and variables when it comes to building out a user readiness and change management plan in your organization. So I like to call this the outside in versus inside out approach. And let me explain what I mean by that. I use this in my business practice every day, at least I try to. And when you take an inside out approach, that means you start with you, right? The what's in it for me from my personal perspective. And then you push that out to everyone else because it's your beliefs, it's your vision, and you say, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it, and it's going to help you in all of these ways. When in reality, it's what's going to help you personally, but maybe not all of those people you're trying to reach. So an inside out approach is when you start with your own vision and you just push that out to everyone else. An outside in approach is when you're starting with the outside being your employees and your users. Maybe it's your customers, depending on the type of change project you're working on. and you work to understand their perspective first. Then you bring them in to you and you say, great, here's where you are. Here's how I can help you get there. And here's what's in it for you to make those changes. So it's really about understanding a day in the life, a common scenario, use cases, personas. It's really about understanding your users first and taking a user first approach versus here's our solution to all of the problems that you don't even know you have. And we are just going to push this out to you and you're going to accept it. Now, a great example of this, if you have not YouTubed this video, I encourage you to do it. It's called The Nail in the Forehead. I think that's the name of it. And it's two people. Obviously, it's a couple on a personal level, but there's actually a girl with a nail in her forehead, and she's trying to talk to her significant other. And she really just wants to be heard. Like she's had a horrible day and she has this really bad headache. And all he's focusing on is the nail in her forehead and saying, just pull the nail out of your forehead and you won't have the headache anymore. And you know, the scope of that video is to show it's not about just solving the problem, right? It's listening and understanding the other person's perspective. So again, it all comes back to perspective. So just watch it. It's, you know, it's a 2-minute video, I think, and it's really great, both for your personal lives, but also ways that you can apply that mentality and kind of scenario into the business world itself. So really important. We talked about this earlier, right? Decisions are personal. It's a choice. We always have options. We are emotional decision makers. We make decisions that make us feel good, and we push back when we think we're making a decision that's not going to make us feel so good. So that's one of those reasons why people push back a lot. They fear it. They don't know what's happening. It makes them feel unstable, right? So there's lots of reasons that those people are pushing back, but usually it has to do with an emotional response they're having to whatever you're pushing on them. So listen and lead with empathy. This goes back to the outside in approach. Understand where the other person is coming from. And I always like to tell customers, plan for the pushback because you know you're going to get it. You know there's going to be people in your organization who simply don't like to change. So when you can acknowledge that up front and let people know, we hear you, we understand you, we know that change is hard, we know this is a big shift from how you work today. We are here to support you. It alleviates a lot of that pushback because you've already tackled it front, from the front forward versus waiting for it to come to you. So it's being active versus being reactive. So approach things from an empathetic standpoint. It does absolutely make a difference. And this one, I firmly believe that communication is much more important than training. Organizations like to do an email with a link to training. Adoption equals training, or sorry, training equals adoption, I should say, right? They start with training. All their mind is around, we just need to teach people how to do something and they'll do it. No, you need to teach people or educate people on why, right? Think about the slide I talked about before this one, right? Why do you make a decision? Because it makes you feel good. It's all about when do you make it? When you have enough information. Why do you stick with it? Because you feel supported. So it's all about communication, opening those communication lines, telling users what is changing, why it's changing, right? Leading with empathy, making the point that we know change is hard and we're here to help you through it. So if you can get that communication down and people buy into that communication, the training then it comes next. But it's not first and it's not more important. I do think communication is more important. That's with any relationship, right? Honestly, it's in our personal lives. You hear that all the time. Any successful relationship has really good communication. And it's the same as the relationship between an organization's leadership and their employees. So really focus on the communication and the message that you're really relaying to your users. And then absolutely keep a feedback loop open. The feedback loop is saying, we're pushing this change onto you, but hey, you know what? It's been a few weeks. Tell us what you think. How can we better support you? Right? That's why people stick to a change. because they feel supported. They feel like they have a community that they can ask questions to and go to for information. So definitely have a feedback loop built in to your user readiness strategy, because that is what's going to keep that momentum going once people start implementing a change. Now, really important, my whole business is built around helping organizations drive people change, and get people to, affect a change that you're implementing in your organization. But I also tell them, don't worry about getting every single last user adapted to a specific change, because you know what? No matter what you do, there are going to be people that still push back, that kick their heels, that are really slow adopters. But if you can focus on the 90% of your organization, the 95% of your organization, that is either easily willing to change, right? The early adopters, the innovators, and you focus a little bit on those laggards, right? Or a lot on the laggards to get most of them moved over. If there are still some people that are left behind, leave them there, right? I know that seems weird to say, especially as a company who drives people change. But the reality is, when you're driving a process change or a technology change, people like to feel like they're part of something bigger. And those 5% of the people that are left over, right, that said, nope, I'm not going to do it, eventually they're going to come over on their own, because they are going to realize they are on a little island all by themselves, not managing the change. And where are you going to get the biggest ROI for your effort? Is it on the 95% of people that you can really work towards shifting over to a new change? Or is it on the 5% of people that no matter what you do, they've just now dug their heels in so deep that you're never going to pull them out on your own, right? They have to be able to make that decision to change. And one of the ways you can get them to do that is by simply leaving them alone. So might sound counterintuitive, but I'm telling you it works. Focus on the majority, and the rest of those people will follow suit. You can check in with them and absolutely kind of keep them going, maybe have a champions program where they're assigned kind of a mentor or someone that can help them. There are things that you can do, but don't put all of your eggs in that basket of those small part of your population that doesn't like change, because you're just spinning your wheels. Focus on the bigger picture, and in the end, the rest of those people will end up coming over to your side of the fence. So what do you think? How does your organization handle those people, those laggards, the people that push back, that simply don't like to make change in your organization, right? The status quo, they like things as they are. Add your comments below. Would love to hear them. As always, if you like this video, you like the information, go ahead and like the video below, subscribe to my channel. I have lots more videos to come. And if you have a question that you want me to consider for the Let's Talk Change series, please submit that question at aka.my/question. And with that, I'm logging off for today. Hopefully we'll see you again soon on Let's Talk Change.